It's a Christmas miracle.
So I guess let's kind of get a little bit to it, which is, we had a feeling that this was going to be, let's just say this for anybody who's joined us. Welcome to Squares of the Roundtable podcast. We are recording this for our podcast. So if people want to hang out and check, or raise your hand and be a part of the show, you can. We are going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, which is, and we're going to probably be talking about it in a spoilery way.
There will be spoilers.
Right. So if you have not seen it, you should probably book out. This is kind of your warning. And we'll kind of mention that to people who are popping in and out of Clubhouse. We are live on Clubhouse today. We usually are on Mondays. So if you want to, if one of these times you want to join us and you want to ask questions or you want to be a part of the conversation, you always can. So that's that. But I guess let's start with we knew it was going to be big. Well, let me go back. Again, my name is Jeff Stein. With me is Mike Boyle.
Howdy.
We are on episode number
178.
Is that where we're at? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at. Okay. I believe the number. Now, I've heard two numbers, Mike. I've heard 264 million domestically. I've heard 253 domestically. I know I've heard the worldwide number is somewhere around 587 million.
That's good, right? Is that a lot?
That's considering the fact that even before the pandemic,
these would have been good numbers even before the pandemic.
These numbers, based just on the numbers that they are, put it as a top 3 opening of all time.
Well, when the tickets dropped, I know it broke Fandango for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked by any of this. We've talked about this for months now, which is, let's put this in perspective, which is there hasn't been anything really out there where everybody was like, gotta see it, have to see it. And let's take it a couple other directions. One, there have been some movies where it's like, oh, I got to see that movie. Okay, thankfully it's on HBO Max. Or
simultaneously, yeah.
Right, simultaneously. The only other time there's been a movie where we're like, got to see it, and it's been like that, was the initial release of Black Widow. And so really,
Ghostbusters Afterlife. I had a friend of mine who came with us, Matt, who was the Captain America fan. He wanted to see. He saw Ghostbusters Afterlife in the theater last month. And he said it was great. He liked it.
Well, honestly, I'm waiting for it to be on demand. I'll definitely check it out. But the point being is, there have been really...
They set their expectations pretty low after Shang-Chi and the Eternals, and it broke their expectations. It far exceeded their expectations for opening weekend.
I just don't understand how anybody didn't see this coming. And the reason I say that is, okay, you're not releasing it on any other streaming service, and unlike HBO and Disney, Spider-Man is not going to get released in 45 days. Okay, I don't know where and as it is, I don't know where Sony's going to put it. I don't think it's Netflix. Usually they put their stuff on Stars, but it takes forever. Or Epix, one of the two. I can't remember which it is. Okay, so it's not going to a streaming service anytime soon. If anything, it might go video on demand, but that might take a little bit of time.
Yeah. Are either of the Tom Holland Spider-Mans on Disney Plus?
No.
Okay.
No, they are not. That's what I mean. So, I mean, that's definitely a factor in all this. Just like I laugh because it's like, I know it's weird because Spider-Verse is on Netflix or was on Netflix at one point, but I don't believe that either Homecoming or Far From Home are on Netflix. I don't believe either of them are there. So really in reality, that's the one thing with Sony is that they haven't had a streaming service partner to do that kind of stuff with. And so I think that, for some of us, like me, that factored in huge, which is, okay, I'm going to have to see it at a theater because I don't know when it's going to come available for me to watch it unless I wait for, on demand with Xfinity.
And Variety, even the article in Variety did mention that a lot of Marvel fans wanted to go so they didn't have to avoid spoilers in the coming days.
Right. Well, and it's funny, we talked about this last week. We talked about it last week where it was like, it's funny, you said about staying off Facebook, and I laughed because I was like, Facebook is usually the one that I don't have to really worry about. And literally the next day after we got done having the conversation, I'm seeing reviews pop up and they don't say spoiler free. And I'm like,
Jerks.
It's Tuesday. It's like, and by the way, it's big publications. And I'm like, it's Tuesday. It's not released anywhere in North America until Thursday. Come on, guys. I mean, seriously. I mean, at least put down if it's spoiler-free or not, because they certainly weren't writing it in headlines or anything along those lines. Now, later on, I saw some ones that said spoiler-free, but, I mean, I hate to say it, I don't know how you can talk about the movie and any way spoiler-free. I just don't know how you do it. There's too many aspects that happen on in the second half of the movie where you can talk, where
you've got characters that are not in any of the trailers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. So, like I said, I guess you and I might be the only ones who weren't shocked by this number. I do laugh that everyone thinks Hollywood is quote-unquote back.
After one movie that's...
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before you get into the film, we'll get into some personal experiences. Of course, I went Friday night amidst the assholes and elbows.
Oh, me too.
And our theater was quite full. It's like over 80%. But people knew that this was a long film, and I had crowds trickling in during the trailers because the concession line was super long, and I did not get my nachos. Sad face. But that people knew that this was going to be a long run. This was 2.5 hours. Plus the trailers, plus, having to sit through all the credits. But yeah, our theater was full, and everyone I saw, of course, until everyone sat down, then everyone had their masks on. So
I thought it was interesting because I sent you a private text, and I contemplated it, but I came to a conclusion I was going to send it to you because I literally, in the trailer section, was like, I really am only waiting around here because supposedly there's a Doctor Strange trailer. And there was. And it's funny, we talked about this. It's like, watch, it'll be at the end of the movie, which is exactly where it is. And that's the only reason I texted you was I'm like, you can go to the bathroom during the trailers. The Doctor Strange trailer is at the end. And I hated
after we'll get into detail in the post-credit scenes later.
Right. But I hated rooting it for you, but I'm like, I know how I was, which was like, it was like, I did go to the bathroom during the trailers, and then I was fine. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to shoot you a note, because I was like, you can go to the bathroom at the beginning of the trailer, in the trailer section. You're not going to miss the Doctor Strange trailer. Right. It's not there. Yeah. It's not there.
You caught the Thursday matinee, and I was
packed asses and elbows.
Yeah. And I was at the Friday night premiere.
Right. It was packed asses and elbows. I will tell you that I was surprised that there was no social distancing in seats.
Well, no.
That's dead. That's gone.
Was this one of the major chains, or was this a regular?
Yeah, this is AMC.
Okay, I went to the Regal, and then another one was the Sunday matinee with my buddy Ray. That was one of the smaller ones, because this was like a 12:40 p.m. Sunday matinee, and there was one of the little theaters, because it was a matinee, and that one was nearly full. I mean, we got 2 seats between the handicapped seats. So, but we got in, it wasn't too bad as far as being close to the screen. But
well, I'll be honest, that's where I was sitting, is down in that section, because with my body type, it's easier for me to sit there, and I need more leg room, and I can raise a thing and not have to worry.
Yeah, don't have to worry about someone walking in front of you, right?
Yeah, the other things. The other thing was, the nice part was at least there was a seat between me and the one other person. But if it had been any closer, I would have not been so happy. But Yeah, and it's funny because I waited till a lot of the asses and elbows left, and pretty much it was empty. And it's like, oh look, it doesn't look like you're sanitizing at all anymore. Okay, good to know. So I don't, I don't. That's gonna. I'll be honest. That's gonna factor in the future about if I decide I want to go to the movies again anytime soon in the future.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I saw the movie twice, and I talked to family members, and they were like, "Nope, I'll wait to see it on TV."
Yeah.
I got some family members who are like, "Nope, I'll wait. Don't want to go yet." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, like I said, Spider-Man was the first thing all year, and I contemplated going for Ghostbusters, and I'm just like,
yeah, me too.
Nah, I think I'll wait till it comes on video on demand in the house, and I'll watch it that way. But yeah, it was packed. I mean, in fairness, it was nice because people were excited, and that made it sort of fun.
We missed the movie-going experience with a bunch of strangers. I missed it, especially for a movie like this where we're cheering and laughing and gasping, and it was great.
Yeah.
So before we get into the film, do you want to touch on any of the trailers that we saw?
I'm trying to remember what the trailers were.
We got the full trailer for Morbius. I think that's been out for a
while. Yeah, the one thing about the Morbius trailer that I continue to be confused by, especially now, is there's one part of the Morbius trailer where he walks by a wall and there's a picture of Spider-Man and it says murderer. And,
might be an old newspaper that someone hung up there a long time ago.
Well, but here's the interesting part is that in theory, this is part of, I don't know, is this MCU? Because what's his name's in it? Michael Keaton, and it seems like he might be playing the Vulture.
I don't know if he's the same
character.
He might be.
I don't. Well, that's also the part that's unclear.
Yeah, we don't know yet if he's going to be play the same character as he did in the MCU.
I mean, it sounds like he might be.
Yeah, we think that we might.
Again, this is the part where I'm kind of like, is this MCU? Is this not MCU? Or how does this work? I think that's the most interesting part about the Morbius thing. I don't know. I'll ask you. Are you really interested in a Morbius movie?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It just looks like a vampire movie with a bit of a anti-hero twist to it.
So here's the irony about Morbius. Again, I've never been a fan of the character, and when I have thought about the character, I always think about Blade. And Blade is not going to be an option in any sort of Morbius movie. Unless they make an agreement and Blade shows up at some point. And by the way, they're still working on putting together that new Blade movie because I can never pronounce that guy's name. The new guy who's playing Blade, who's like the 2-time Oscar winner guy. I can't remember his name. He's really, really a great actor. But they haven't even started with that. So, I think that's part of my problem too. Is I think about Morbius, I think about Blade.
But I think they've shelved the trail. I think they've shelved Blade, the Blade reboot or the continuation.
No, they haven't.
Still on the books? Okay.
No, it's just taking a lot. It's just taking longer. No, they named what's his name? God, I can't pronounce his name. Malawi or something like. I can't. I can't pronounce his name. Is the problem?
I know
the guy from the Green Book, the black guy from the Green Book.
Yeah, the guy who played the piano player. Yep.
Right. That's who they got.
Okay.
And so, no offense, but Marvel's not giving up on anything with that. We got a 2-time Oscar winner. We're gonna make that happen. It's just a matter of when more than if. So
let's see what else. I got, of course, Sing comes out this week. Sing 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see it, but again, after Spider-Man, I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, okay. Have
you had the urge to see Spider-Man again? To catch like the Easter eggs and little stuff you missed?
It's tempting, but I gotta be honest. I think I can wait a little bit. I think if I do, I think it'll be a little while. No. I don't think I need to go out immediately and go watch it. And that might be my real trick about going to the movies at this point is pick a movie that I know has been out a few weeks that I know nobody's practically going to be at. Like, I'm thinking that's the way I go see maybe West Side Story in the theater. If it's still there. I mean, it's flopped so badly, it may not be. But I almost feel like that's the way I'm going to have to handle some of this, is look for where I can get, like, I don't know if Ghostbusters is still in the theaters. I think it might be gone.
It is.
Is it? Okay. I didn't really look, to be perfectly honest. I'm trying to remember what else was in terms of trailers.
We got this one with Channing Tatum and a dog.
Oh, we didn't get that. I don't think we got that. Well, maybe I
got that one. It was like, looks like a
we did. I figured.
Good-looking guy and a dog, feel good kind of movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
And another one where we got Zachary Levi as the extreme football player. He's gonna like the arena football based on a true story, where he tried to make it to the NFL.
Oh, the Kurt Warner thing.
Yeah.
The Kurt Warner story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm halfway through the trailer. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Shazam.
Yeah. So Kurt Warner became Shazam? No, kidding. Yeah.
What else did we get for trailers?
I know there's the one about some sort of asteroid or something. Or I'm sorry, not asteroid. The moon thing.
Yeah.
The moon thing that I'm like,
I'm
not paying for that. I'll watch it later, but I'm not paying for this.
Another Michael Bay movie with what's his name? The Mysterio and
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, and some other guy where they're in an ambulance. That's in the movie. And name of the movie is Ambulance.
Oh,
and looks like a Michael Bay movie. Yep, it's like at least he's staying in his lane. So
speed, but an ambulance.
Right. He's got a cop. There's a wounded cop, and there's a good-looking nurse in the ambulance, and explosions and car chases and cars flipping, and guns, and it's Michael Bay. So good on him.
Again, I mean, my problem at this point is, what is going to make me want to sit through this with a mask on and dealing with this bullshit that I'm willing to sit for a couple hours this way, and that's now the new threshold. And a lot of this stuff, the answer is no thanks. Not going to do it.
Didn't see anybody, so everybody wore a mask in the lobby, and everyone there was a long line for concessions, and nope, because we had got stopped at Jersey Mike's before the movie, so wasn't hungry, but I'm like, I could have gone for some nachos, but I didn't. So, but everyone wore a mask. Of course, when the house lights came down and the movie started, I just pulled it over my nose so I could breathe a little better. And then when the credits started rolling, then I pulled up my mask, so to speak, and finished until until we were.
I'll be honest. I picked up some pack of Reese's Pieces. I had a ridiculous size box of chocolate popcorn.
Ridiculous.
And obviously I had the soda. And I'll be honest. I think I was taking my time. I think there was a good period of time where I didn't have my mask on just simply because it was it was funny. There were times where it's I'd have my mask on and I'd be eating inside my mask with the popcorn. But
you slip the popcorn under it, under your chin?
Well, no, I open the mask, eat the popcorn, close the mask back up, eat the popcorn. You know what I mean? Where I'm literally eating the popcorn,
You're
but
chewing.
My mask is up. I'm
okay.
chewing. But I'll tell you, I had popcorn almost all the way, and this is rare because usually I destroy this stuff. But I had popcorn literally practically to almost near the end of the movie. So, I was doing that quite a bit, quite often. But again, that's what...
Yeah. So, and of course, then I saw that M&M's commercial, which is 9 years old, where it's plays like a movie trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Dumb. And of course, there was this new Chevrolet commercial, and I got the feels. So
then there's the and I've seen this before, that AMC. Well, I can't. You guys probably didn't get it. So AMC did an ad with Nicole Kidman talking about how it's not really a movie unless you've gone to the movies kind of thing. And
I didn't get that one, no.
Right, because you weren't in AMC.
No.
And I can't remember the exact wording, but I was a little bit like, fuck you.
No. I went to the Gurney Mills Theater on Sunday, and the CEO of Marcus Films had a little speech sitting in the theater saying, isn't it great to be in the movies? Thanks for coming. Thanks for choosing our chain, It's been a rough couple of years or whatever. So that was interesting. But that was the only true message where I thanks for, coming back after all these months being indoors. But that was it. No, I didn't get the Nicole Kidman one. I didn't get to an AMC.
Well, I think that's the funny part is there is this push. Some of it's by the theater companies. Some of it's by movie theater, by people who create movies. Because, movies are meant to be seen in a theater, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a definite push amongst the Hollywood entertainment media to push that narrative. And it kind of pisses me off. Because they've purposely gone after companies who, this past year, decided to release simultaneously. And it's like, hey, assholes, it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic. And P.S. Project Popcorn, which is what HBO Max called it when they decided to do what they did, was a huge success for HBO Max. Huge.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely huge. And it's the part that they forget to talk about is, it hurt box office. Yeah, but go look at HBO Max's
and
numbers.
Warner Brothers films in general.
Right.
It translated to more viewership at home. And the people who wanted to see it in the theater still could.
Yep.
For the most part.
Perfect example. I know you're not a Matrix 4 fan or a Matrix fan.
Yeah, I saw that trailer for the Matrix Resurrection or whatever it was, the fourth one.
Right. But, and that's out this week. And it's like, hey, guess what? I don't have to go to the theater to watch it. I'll watch it from home. And I'm very happy about that. And it's funny because you said you're like, oh, I'm not interested. My reaction is, hey, you know what? I'm getting it on HBO Max.
I can see it for free.
I don't have to. Right, exactly. I don't have to go to the theater for this.
Right.
All right, cool, great. It's funny because I don't know how much. Well, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with all this Omicron stuff because things could change very, very quickly again.
So I guess we can get into the film.
Where do you? I guess here's the question. Well, where do you really want to start?
Let's start at the beginning. An excellent place to start. Yeah. The film begins immediately following the events of Far From Home, where it's right when J. Jonah Jameson is on a big screen TV in Times Square and telling everyone that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And Peter says, oh, shit. And all of a sudden, the first thing he does is looks down to Zendaya. To MJ. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we get everyone back, all the actors from the first one. So then there's an opening chase. There's an opening chase that leads back to his mom and dad, to his Aunt May's apartment. And
can we stop there for a second?
Yeah.
Here's something I still don't understand. Okay, so we know there was a part at the end of the second movie where we know Mysterio was recording all that stuff. And we kind of know that one of his guys doctored it, okay?
Yeah, obviously, because he never executed, because Peter never, said execute them all,
Right. Right. Well, he did, but not about that.
Right.
Not about that. So the part I don't get is, here's the thing. I get who sent it to J. Jonah Jameson and how he got it. I don't understand the purpose or point.
Maybe just spite, because Mysterio,
Spidey?
He was a petty man.
Yeah, but it wasn't Mysterio. It was one of his guys.
Yeah, could have been just, yeah.
What's the... I just feel like there should be more to this than this. And maybe that's just me being crazy, but it's like, it doesn't feel very Marvel for some Marvel, because they're usually pretty good about stuff like this. It's like, okay, they did it just to do it. And so I'm like, kind of like.
Well, they wanted to end the movie on a cliffhanger, and this was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Because the plot demands it. That's why it happened. So we've got the scene where the chase, because now traffic copters are following Peter and MJ around the city, and they make it to Aunt May's apartment where, Aunt May and Happy have broken up.
Yep.
And immediately when Happy, Hogan, and Aunt May are breaking it up. And she was kind of okay with it, and he's not. And he's getting, he's kind of trying to figure out why. Mm-hmm. And then Peter's getting his spider suit off. He's pulling all the blinds down, and the TV's on, breaking news, and you see their apartment.
Well, you missed the part where literally they think they're in the middle of having sex.
Yeah. I didn't see nothing. Yeah, he's like, where she says, he crawls in through the window all the time. I should check on that. And it was obviously an awkward moment. And there's times like that's the same thing. That's the thing. Yeah, it was funny. But there's a couple times in this film where we know Marvel's in for the LOLs. And there's a couple times, though, especially what happens with Flash Thompson. He's just there to get a chuckle, and then he's gone. Same thing with Happy a couple of times in this film. When I guess I'm okay with it, but it's just it's part of the package when you're dealing with Marvel.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, I do think there's a place for some of that, which is it brings back part of the fact that this is supposed to be a teenager. He is in high school. He is supposed to be a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, dealing with real-world problems and at the same time fighting these fantastic villains.
Right. There should be moments like...
Yeah, and there are. And for the most part, the comedy was balanced for me.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, and I will say, I agree with you. I agree that Flash Thompson kind of...
This movie almost could have done... The movie almost could have done without him.
Which is unfortunate. Which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, he had some great moments in the first two films, and then he's just like, now I'm, he wants to be Spider-Man's best friend.
The funny part is, and this is the part that I kind of find amusing, it would have been interesting to see Flash added to part of their Scooby Gang. It would have been an interesting dynamic to add Flash Thompson.
Yeah, sort of like a junior member,
Right, like and watch him have to get indoctrinated into all this stuff.
Yeah, and just not just need him just for a couple of plot contrivances where it's just had to find the whoever the director from MIT or whatever for after the mixer.
Right. So and it's funny because there could have been some great moments to have somebody like Flash in something like this and have him do some things that would have been amusing or interesting, but. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like that was in the cards.
But for the amount of character management this film has to do for the story, it does a great job. I would have liked to see a little bit, and of course now we have to, he's foreseeing the legal ramifications of...
By the way, that book, the Flash book. We haven't got that far.
Yeah.
That's hysterical because that's taking a shot at
DC, yeah. It's taking a jab at DC for Flashpoint, yeah.
But that was hysterical on that level, and not to mention the fact it's like of all the people it's like that is hysterical. Where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna write this book. And it's and I'm selling it.
Yeah, he got that book published pretty fast, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, within minutes.
It is funny though, because literally, that is kind of how stuff like this goes in reality. That's what happens when stuff like this happens.
Yeah, so the ramifications of Peter Parker being accused of murder, he gets a lawyer, and we get a character who we pretty sure he was going to be in it, and he was in it for just that one scene, and we get Matt Murdock, played by Charlie Cox from the Netflix Daredevil.
Yeah.
So that was a good scene. That was fine. I would have liked to see more of them, though.
Well, and he catches the one brick coming out of the window.
He caught the brick, because the court of public opinion, and
right. And it was really funny.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good scene.
Peter's like sitting there. He's like, "How did you do that?" Good. That's what good lawyers do.
I'm a really good lawyer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a really good lawyer, or something like that. It's like, Yeah. I was a little surprised that was all we got of
Matt
Murdock. I was a little surprised. I thought maybe we might see him, we might see him more as the movie went on in some way, but I guess that's good enough as a good place to introduce him. I've heard rumblings that he might be a part of She-Hulk because, keep in mind, Jennifer Walters is a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that may be a direction where we might see Matt Murdock, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if that's what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have, it was kind of an interesting week for Daredevil fans because we'll get to that. But, at least, you got it. It's clear that Marvel wants to be back in the Daredevil business. So there's that.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, they have to go back to school, their senior year. And meanwhile, Ned and MJ and Peter are applying to schools, and they're getting rejected because of the controversy. And poor Ned nobody cares about Ned. But he's still, because he's simply a friend of Peter Parker, that they don't want any part of him, despite the grades. So, and of course they had to get out of Aunt May's apartment because of the heat. They had to follow the traffic. The news copters were there, and J. Jonah Jameson on his InfoWars type website were selling vitamin supplements. So they had to move in with Happy, and we don't see much of Happy in the apartment, but maybe he was because of the breakup that he was willing to get somewhere else or whatever, give them room. But anyway, so not getting rejected from all these schools, and Peter, in the I guess they see some Halloween ornaments or Halloween decorations at the coffee shop that MJ works at, and one of them looks like some kind of spooky wizard. So that's where Peter gets the idea to go to Bleecker Street and see Doctor Strange about the spell that maybe if he can make the spell or first he asked him for the Time Stone, and Doctor Strange says, no, we don't have the Time Stone anymore. And then there was this whole thing about Wong, where Wong wasn't just a lackey, where the scene in Infinity War where Wong's like, yeah, I got $1.50, and obviously
well, the problem is that you haven't seen.
I haven't seen Shang-Chi. That explained to me in the parking lot after the film.
Right. So there's some interesting stuff going on with Wong.
Yeah.
That has to do with Shang-Chi. That now even more makes more questions when this conversation takes place about the fact that really Wong is running the show and not Doctor Strange.
He's the Sorcerer Supreme, not Doctor Strange.
Right, not Doctor Strange.
Right.
And it's interesting because like I said, I don't want to spoil for you because you haven't seen Shang-Chi yet, but yeah, there's a few sequences with Wong that make a little bit more sense now. And it makes a little bit more sense why it was Wong and it wasn't Doctor Strange in certain places. So, yeah. That definitely made things interesting. I was surprised.
Yeah, where they changed the scene, the exchange they had in the trailer, where Wong was all like, don't do it, and then he walks through the portal, and, we get a wink from Doctor Strange, and they go and do it. But this one was all like, Wong was all like, keep me out of it. You're dealing with dark shit. It might not go well. So.
And by the way, that was interesting too, that Wong never shows back up after there is dark shit. There's clearly shit that's gotten fucked up, but Wong never shows back up again, which was interesting.
Yeah. Of course, we're gonna.
And I was a little surprised by that.
Well, in his defense, Strange was busy doing other things, like when he contained the spell, and then it was like, oh, I'm gonna go. You didn't even ask. So Strange they go down to the dungeon pretty much, and he casts the spell, and this is in the trailer, so Doctor Strange casts a spell to make everyone forget, and then Peter realizes, oh no, everyone's going to forget. No, MJ can't forget, and Ned can't forget, and Aunt May can't forget, and then he's like, and he keeps changing the spell while he's casting it, and things go wrong, and hence this calamity that we have going on here, where people who know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, boy, this is getting tongue-tied here, are starting to leak through into our universe, but Peter tries to find this MIT person because Strange says, you mean to tell me you came to me, you did without even trying to make a phone call to these people. Well, asked me trying to brainwash the entire world, and we could have just tried to convince him with a phone call.
Yeah, that's
he's like, you can do that?
That's the Gen Z thing.
Yeah, and he kicks him out of the sanctorum.
And then of course he's got to make a deal with Flash Thompson to find out where
this mixer is, just to find out where this lady is. And they're on the highway, and he finds her, and she's stuck in traffic, and he's trying to convince her. But all of a sudden, the spider senses come off, and the spider senses are dealt with differently. The only time we get the spider senses was when his hairs stand up on his hand and his arm in Infinity War. I think it's the only other time we've had. I mean, I'm sure we might have had some of it in No Way Home.
You mean Far From Home?
Far From
Oh,
Home,
yeah.
Yeah, he has the Spidey senses in Far From Home.
Yeah, he used it in Far From Home.
Yeah, okay.
As a matter of fact, that was the big key on how he was able to defeat Mysterio, because he was able to use it to figure out the illusion and that.
Use his spider senses instead of just,
the Peter Tingle.
Yes, the tingle.
The Peter Tingle.
So then Dr. Octopus, Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2 shows up, and this was a cool fight scene. We finally get the crash, pow, bam fight that we wanted, and Spidey's had to use the Iron Spider suit that uses the nanotech from Infinity War and Endgame, and that was great. That was a great fight. That was fun.
That was the hilarious part. Is and that's a great example, because look, I mean, how far long ago was the original Spider-Man 2? I mean, that's what. I mean, we're talking. I'm trying to remember what year that is.
Was 2016?
No. I mean the
Homecoming.
No, I'm talking about when Alfred Molina was in it.
Oh, geez, that was what, 2003, 2004? Oh, because the original one was 2001, 2002. Yeah, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was 2002.
2004.
Yeah.
So, I mean, think about it this way. You're talking about 2004 technology, and now you're talking about 2021 technology.
2023, actually.
2023 technology. Well, yeah. So you're talking about 2023 technology. Yeah, quite a bit has changed.
Yeah, it's not just big, clunky mechanical tentacles.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny that basically, initially it was like, oh crap, he's going to be able to use the nanotech to be even better than to make Dr. Octopus even more formidable. And then the
Iron Spider suit just uses Bluetooth.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's one of those examples where it's like, this was something where in 2004.
Yeah.
In 2004 wouldn't have been thought about in 2023.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll just do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the part that was funny, because it's like, foiled by newer technology.
That's right.
Which is kind of funny.
So, and then Strange shows up again, but before that, we see a pumpkin bomb go off after he saves the MIT lady, and all of a sudden they get whisked away to the dungeon, the wizard's dungeon. There's no sugarcoating that. It's a wizard's dungeon, as says MJ. And Doc Ock and Spidey are in the dungeon, and they're all like, how did we get here? And then Doctor Strange reasserts himself about, okay, we gotta fix this. And Spider-Man's all like, Peter's all like, I need help. So he gets MJ and Ned to help, and they go to the basement where they call it some Arcoria or whatever, some special place, but it's just a basement. There's a washer dryer down there. And a workbench. It's nowhere somewhere especially special. So they capture with Doc Ock immobilized, where his tentacles won't do what he says. So he's been imprisoned, and Doctor Strange brings his friends in and says, "You need to Scooby-Doo this shit." So MJ and Ned are on the internet trying to find. Please, yes. Please.
Scooby-Doo this shit, please.
Yeah, because MJ's all like, yeah, it's your spell, but you screwed up. We'd be happy to help you, but there was a little something, yeah. So, where do we go? So from here, we're in the basement, and they hear about these...
Well, they get the hit out in the boondocks.
Yeah, the strange anomalies going on by this military base. And that's where Doc Ock says, oh yeah, it's military, it's probably... who we saw was the Green Goblin, Peter called him a big green elf.
But really, it's Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's Electro, which is Jamie Foxx.
Yep. And Sandman.
And Hayden Church from Spider-Man 3 being the Sandman. And I kind of enjoyed the fact that they did not make Sandman straight out to be a bad guy. He has always kind of been a character in the comics that's kind of skirted that. I mean, at one point, Sandman in the comics. At one point, Sandman's a member of the Avengers, believe it or not.
Not a totally bad guy,
right? And there was a period where he wasn't a bad guy, where he was kind of like, Marvel's
he
answer
doesn't
for
have any
anti-hero.
Grandiose villainous designs. He just wants to go home and see his daughter.
Yeah, and this one in particular. But like I said, so I did appreciate that direction with things.
Yeah, as well as Jamie Foxx as Electro, bringing that fourth wall breaking dynamic about okay, this is some crazy shit going on, and it brought a different.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx does a really good job.
Yeah, he plays it straight, and he can still be in that universe.
Right, and in fairness, him revisiting Electro here was a highlight of the movie. I feel like, it's funny. I've seen Spider-Man 2. It's Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's been a while, but. In comparison to what they made him do in Amazing Spider-Man 2 versus what we saw here, they allowed Jamie Foxx to make this a better character.
Yeah, they wrote him much better for this role in No Way Home.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
and he takes advantage of it, and it makes for a better movie. Without question in my mind.
Yeah, and the exchanges because there's this ambiguity between, obviously, Doc Ock is in his own corner. He's kind of siding with Goblin, which we get to in a moment. But there are a couple exchanges between Sandman and Electro where they're great villain moments, great character moments. Which this film is littered with great character moments, great character beats. Between these iconic characters we've known for years. So, Spider-Man fixes the mess. They teleport the bad guys to the dungeon. And when he gets back, he finds out that Green Goblin was in hiding. He still has this dual personality that is battling like the scene in First Spider-Man where the helmet is talking to him.
Yeah.
Where he's got this split personality deal. So he finds Aunt May in the homeless shelter or halfway house or whatever, at the place where
wherever she's doing like charity
work, helping people. And so Peter storms in only to find this cowering old man. Of course, he's covering up his suit and his helmet's gone, so that's okay. I think, Could have done, would have liked to see the helmet and the glider again, just to put it on or have it. But there's no way for him to hide it because it's not.
Honestly, I got to tell you, I was glad that there wasn't the helmet.
Yeah, it was a little. I guess nowadays, it would be a little bit too on point.
Well, it's not even that. If you looked at where they went with it, they put him in that hoodie, and it's kind of almost a purplish hoodie.
Yeah, he was in the green and purple, with the hood.
So if anything, it was really the closest they could get to what he would look like from the comics in reality. So to me, I was kind of like, at first my reaction was, oh, interesting, they're not using the helmet. And then the more I looked at it, the more I'm like, they're really trying to basically give him a look that looks exactly like the comics. They did the same thing in the end. They did the same thing with Electro. Where when he powers up, he looks
sometimes
like
you
Electro.
see the 5 stars around his head.
Right, like the
classic character from from his origins.
They did a really great job of trying to make these characters that they had never gotten a shot with before to make them look like Marvel characters, like you would see in the comic books. And I give them all the credit in the world for that. Yeah. Because some of them, I hate to say it, didn't look like that. I mean, yeah, it was, the one off the top of my head in particular, Electro was just brutal, what they did to him. I can't remember how they found the lizard, but they did get the lizard too. And, at this point we get to the interesting part, which is the part where Doctor Strange drops the bomb.
Sandman drops the news that, both Green Goblin and Doc Ock die fighting Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like Electro drops the news to the lizard. That he's not alive either.
Yeah. So they figure, this is what's going to happen. But Strange arrives because he's contained the spell into this box, and Strange says they got to go back. But Peter, being the good-hearted person that he is, who will not kill, says nope, and then a chase ensues where the box is the chase for the box, pretty much.
Well, to me, this is the part where it's interesting, because now you're going to, it's almost as if you're going to the same argument as Iron Man and Captain America from Civil War. Yeah. In that there is we have to think of the greater good. No, we need to think of the people.
Do the right thing, or do what's best for what's going on right now. Do what's best for right now.
And it's interesting because this time Peter Parker is on the correct side of things. Or let me rephrase that. Peter Parker this time is on the correct side of things in terms of where he probably should have been. I mean, I get why he was where he was when he was there.
He was recruited by Tony Stark, and he idolized Tony Stark.
Right, and I get it. And based on the way the origins went within the MCU, it made sense. I liked that we saw him go the other way on this, which is more the character that is Spider-Man that you would see in the comics. Because there have been occasions where there have been other heroes who are like, why don't we just kill Norman Osborn? It's like, hey, no, Norman's my problem. He's been my problem more than anybody else. But we're not killing. Yeah,
so the chase ensues for the box, and he takes him to the mirror dimension, and the coolest thing, because Peter is a smart little kid, he figures the mirror dimension, where I rule here. And Peter's like, oh, this is just geometry. I can do geometry. So he traps Doctor Strange by spinning some webs, and they concentrically surround him. And yeah, it was great. The cape of Cagliostro also that ensues in this as part of this chase, and it was great. Great choreography, great effects, great scene. Of course, we see the mirror dimension we saw in Doctor Strange 1. And that's how Doctor Strange gets trapped, and that gives him a reason to be out of the picture long enough for Peter to solve the problem and not just use magic to fix the problem.
I will say this. I think this is the one place where I get that side of it. At the same time, it's amazing that it's clear there's a problem. And yet, apparently Wong has interns. They're nowhere to be seen after they're mopping up the snow.
After they're shoveling snow in the foyer.
They're shoveling snow in the foyer. Okay. And we don't see Wong again. And forgive me, I don't think where Wong went at the time would basically... Now again, I haven't seen Eternals, but based on Shang-Chi, the time frames, I don't think they cinch up to where this would be, Wong would be busy doing whatever he was doing in Shang-Chi. So there is a part of me where I'm like...
We just realized that Doctor Strange is a good enough wizard, he can clean it up himself. Let him clean up his own mess. This is his mess.
Except we know Wong's never allowed. Wong has said on numerous occasions, it's like, you're going to fuck this up, I better be here. I mean, we have heard that and seen that. And in enough movies with Doctor Strange in it, where, again, I don't know. It's just, to me, kind of interesting how magically
where Wong is questioning his judgment. Even in Endgame.
Right.
Where it said, okay, but this is that everyone? And Wong's like, you wanted more? That's like always, questioning his judgment. So you're right. So it's just because the plot demands it. That's why Wong isn't around.
Right. That's the only, or hey, we can only pay Wong we only can pay that actor a certain amount of money to be in the movie, for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so to me, but it was a moment of disconnect because it's like, okay, there's more than just Doctor Strange around who should be looking into this, but okay. But yeah, so yeah, we get to that point, and
so they all go to Happy's apartment because Peter knows that when he first moved in to Happy's apartment, he realizes that Happy's got a fabricator device that can make pretty much anything.
And we forgot, the arm is there from Iron Man.
Yes, the original arm that was the clumsy arm from the Iron Man trilogy.
Yeah, is in Happy's apartment.
Knocking over the Lego Death Star and knocking over drinks and being the happy, sad, little, pathetic little robot arm that we love so much. So Peter breaks out the fabricator and starts curing them, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He cures Dr. Octopus, and he's back to normal before the arms took over.
By the way, there's something about that, too, where I kind of had a disconnect moment. At the end of the original second Spider-Man movie, he's in charge, isn't he?
Well, he still hears the voices.
Oh, does he? Okay.
That's what that was all about. They get a decent enough exposition as to why the arms are doing the bad things.
Yeah.
So
like I said.
Then Dr. Octopus assists and they create a cure for Electro and an anti-serum for Green Goblin. And that's
and the Lizard.
Did they have the anti-serum for the Venom? I thought
I think they were
came
pretty
later.
Much oh, maybe that was later.
Because Lizard was still in the box, and he was in the truck.
Right, he was in the truck.
Lizard was still in the truck,
and that's when J. Jonah Jameson has a scoop that
he's tipped off that he knows the building that they're in. So
right,
he brings his news organization and the cops to Peter Parker's the location, which is Happy's apartment, and then we get the
we get the moment
then Green Goblin says we don't need fixing.
Yeah, and quite frankly, both him and Electro are not in on this plan.
No, and so they throw Doc Ock out the window because now so obviously he's somewhat a good guy now. So and then he's out of the picture for the battle. And
Sandman kind of ends up in that fight.
Sandman he just bolts. He just gets out of there.
Yeah.
It's like,
but the real issue is those other two, and of course the Daily Bugle has all of the footage of what's going on, and
Peter says Aunt May run, and while Peter is fighting Lizard and Goblin, she's making her way down the stairs. By the time she gets to the foyer, the battle's already gone to the stairs because they're smashing through the floors, making their way to the bottom. And that's when the Green Goblin decides to blow up the foyer, the bottom floor of the building, and eventually causing the death of Aunt May.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
Neither did I. Well, as soon as he said, "You'll thank me later," that's when I knew that she's going to go. And then you realize all the talking, all the inspirational speeches, and especially at the end when we knew, then she got up and she's still talking to him, and she says, "With great power, blah 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 blah."
Yeah, so that's the interesting part about all. So let's talk about that for a moment. So it's the first time in the MCU Spider-Man trilogy that we finally hear the phrase that pretty much is what Spider-Man comics have been built around for decades, which is, with great power comes great responsibility. And it's interesting because where it comes from is usually Ben Parker, Uncle Ben. We've never had, in this entire thing, we never had an Uncle Ben. We don't know what happened to Uncle Ben. We don't know where things went, what went on. It seems like
the only mention of Uncle Ben was his initials on the suitcase in Far From Home.
Right, that's it.
He doesn't even mention Uncle Ben.
Right. We don't get any of that.
No.
And so it becomes really, really interesting because, my first reaction is, okay, it's interesting. My first reaction was, wow, we're not giving. So now we're getting woke with this. My second reaction is, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. I can live with it. It makes sense if you're not going to have Uncle Ben and he's not going to be a part of things. Sure, go ahead, let Aunt May say it.
Yeah, I was fine with Aunt May saying it because
initially I wasn't.
Really?
Initially I wasn't. Really. Initially I wasn't. Initially I was like, wow, really?
No, I was cool with it.
It took me a couple seconds to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm good with this.
And then she dies in his arms, and this time the SWAT team has showed up, and no regular cops, no ambulances, no one to save Aunt May. And although Happy shows up, but then he's got the laser sights on him even before he's gotten out of the car, and he sees Peter, and he yells for Peter to run.
Yep.
And Happy knows what's happened, and so Peter does just that, and he gets out, standing in the rain, watching J. Jonah Jameson, and how everything Spider-Man touches turns to ruin, and he's standing there in the rain, battered and beaten. Aunt May's dead, and big emotional beat. Just makes for great Spider-Man storytelling in general.
Well, it just makes for great storytelling in general because literally it's like, okay. And what's great is literally I'm like, okay, I don't know how you come back from this, except there is one way you come back from it.
Oh yeah, and Ned. So we go back to Ned and MJ, whom Spider-Man has given MJ trust enough to keep the box that will instantly send everyone home. Keep it safe with her because she can't keep it with me because there's too much danger. So she decides maybe she's going to press the button. But meanwhile, in the fight with Doctor Strange, we forgot to mention this, that Peter had gotten a hold of, well, for lack of a better term, his brass knuckles that gives him
ring. The sling ring.
Yeah, they give the ability to open portals. He's given it to Ned, and now Ned can seemingly open portals.
Well, it's funny because Ned makes jokes about how supposedly his family is supposedly magical.
Yeah. That's why he's like so excited to be in the Sanctorum, and it's like, yeah, my family says we have magic, and he's like, I felt this tingly part, and yeah, go ahead.
Well, the best part is that when he says all that, Strange rolls his eyes like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, I've had it tingling in my hands, and he says you should see a physician.
Yeah, which only makes it even more amusing that Ned is amazingly able to do this.
Has
and
magic.
By the way, P.S.
I am magic.
And P.S. faster than Strange did in his movie.
Yes, faster than Strange was able to do it in Doctor Strange, yes, the first one.
So
fascinating.
So it brings us to the part of the movie
where Ned says, I want to see Peter Parker, and he opens a portal, and there's Spider-Man in an alley, a dark alley. Yay, Spider-Man! It's Peter. And he runs towards a portal, and that's not his spider suit. Mask comes off, it's Andrew Garfield, and the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, theater went nuts.
Yes, it did.
Theater went nuts. Okay, try it again. As soon as the words "try it again" came out, everybody's screaming because everybody knows what's coming.
Everyone knows what's next. Who's next in this lineup?
Who's next? And out walks Tobey Maguire. So, kudos for Marvel for taking a moment where you literally have everybody down to the ground and instantaneously moments later, turning it into like one of the great feel-good movie moments in MCU history.
Yeah.
Kudos to them for being able to take that and make one moment from the worst moment to the greatest moment in a matter of minutes. That is not an easy thing to do from a storytelling perspective, and they did it. And it was not only was it effective, it was exactly what audiences needed. And P.S. I don't know about you, Mike, but I'll be honest. I had kind of given up hope and believing that either of the two of them were going to be in the movie, especially as we got later into the movie. I was like, I guess this isn't really going to happen.
And with their absence in the trailers, but we all know they were holding something out.
Right.
For the
film.
We said if the villains can get through to this dimension, who's to say the heroes can't? And sure enough, they did.
I will say this: they shot. Now remember, and I have to go back and look at it, but I'm pretty sure of this. They shot different footage for that second trailer, because I'm pretty sure there's a scene in the trailer where literally it's Tom Holland's Peter Parker trying to save MJ after falling off the bridge, and it can't reach her, and it's not Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, there was some misdirection. There was footage in trailers that we never saw.
Right.
This was like Infinity War, where we had that scene where all the Avengers are running towards a screen.
Yeah.
And that was never in Infinity War.
Right.
It was misleading.
But it's interesting because, that was the one where we were all that was the one scene that I had kind of a tip-off thought that they're there. Is even with that scene, I'm like, yeah, because really, let me guess, the next scene right after that is Andrew Garfield shows up and basically catches her and makes the save. We did get something like that, but not the same exactly. Yeah. So we'll get to that here in a minute, but.
So there's a great exchange between Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Ned's mother. Clean up the mess
clean the cobwebs.
Clean the cobwebs. Crawl on the ceiling. No. So then they figure out, okay, and Toby says, I had a feeling that I've been looking for your Spider-Man, and I get the feeling he's in trouble. Is there somewhere he would go? And there is. It's not the top of the Empire State or anything like that. It's on top of his school because he's still just a young kid, and that's the scene where the three of them are on top of the school, thinking about MIT and thinking about going to college, and we can all be together. Mm-hmm. Where Peter is obviously, devastated in the loss of his aunt, and where Andrew and Toby are there to console him and to explain that we still got to do the right thing, and Tom says, I'm using their actor names just to keep us straight.
It's almost easier that way.
Yeah. Not Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, which was another great scene where they had to work together. But so they explain about
here. Yeah, go ahead.
Where they console him and where Tom says, "I want to kill him." I mean, that's no two ways around it. And that's what I want to do. But then they quote and Toby finishes the quote that he just heard from his aunt who just died. That my Uncle Ben said that when he died in my arms the day he died. He said that. So it was the binding tie, the phrase. Mm-hmm. And how all the others, where Tom where Andrew and Toby open up about their loss and how where Andrew said that I was filled with rage. I can't let that happen to you. So they go back to their dungeon, and they go back to, where do they go? They go to the school. That's right. They're in the school.
They're in the school.
They go to the school's lab and they fix the shit. They Scooby-Doo the shit from the school's lab where they...
Well, and this is where there's an interesting conversation. There are a couple interesting conversations.
Yeah, there's great character moments in this.
One of them has to do with the fact that a lot of Spider-Man villains end up being people that are friends of Spider-Man. Right. And Ned freaks out and says to Peter...
It goes to Toby and says, you have a best friend?
Yeah.
I did.
Right. And then Andrew Garfield kind of says about the same thing. And the part that's interesting is a lot of people are laughing at the line about where Ned says, I'm never going to become a villain of Spider-Man. And there's a lot of laughter from the regular audience. Here's the part where the laughter is even more amusing. Ned Leeds at some point becomes the Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
And was brainwashed. Well, the long and short of it is Ned was brainwashed and became the Hobgoblin, but at one point he was a Spider-Man villain. So that's the part that makes it even more amusing is if you've read the comics, you know that at some point, right, at some point you know.
But they still make it funny for the normies.
Right. The normies laugh, the people who know better. There are two laughs that happened in our theater. The people who were laughing because it was funny, and the people who were laughing even harder because they knew the background of Ned Leeds. This is also the point where we start talking about how we make webs.
Oh my God! They addressed the organic web shooters.
Right.
The source of ire for so many people when the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out. Because I've been on the internet for a while, and I remember when that came out, and people were really upset about the organic web shooters, and they address it. Thank you.
Well, I just think it's hysterical because it's like, can you only shoot them there? Can you shoot them out of your...
Can they come out of any other places?
Right, they come out from any other places. It's hysterical because it's like, it's a great point. We've never seen it come out from anywhere else, but this is the MCU people looking at it going, well, this is why this doesn't work. Let's show us this. But they still use it because obviously that's the character. Yeah. But it is kind of funny because, it's like, okay.
Yeah, and they do address that where, especially in past comics and Spider-Man situations too, where the peril does increase because there are points in time when Spider-Man's fighting where he runs out of web fluid.
Right, or jams.
Yeah, or he talks about he had web block because he had an existential crisis. Where it was like, I have to make this stuff in a lab and it's a hassle. But, they addressed the organic web shooters. And that was, because, you can have fan service and you can still have great storytelling, and we get this So well done in this
film.
film.
It's extremely well done. Each one gets their moment.
Yeah. They balanced the character moments between all these people. It worked out so well in that. So
and then you get the one. Well, okay, so let's get to this. Does the Statue of Liberty really need Captain America's shield?
Apparently not, because after the battle it's not present. But
it's coming back.
They made a comment passing where I think when they were moving into Happy's apartment, someone was talking either on the TV or the radio that there was some controversy. People were making a big deal about, do we really want to put the shield on top of the Statue of Liberty? Because they addressed the renovations of the Statue of Liberty after the blip and commemorating Brooklyn's hero, Steve Rogers.
Yeah, the irony is, though, and I guess we can talk about this a little bit because we were going to talk about Hawkeye in a bit. It sounds, because keep in mind, Hawkeye is based after No Way Home.
Yeah, because this is Christmas. Yeah.
Right. So they're talking about it getting re-renovated and put back on in the conversation that Yelena has with Kate Bishop. So apparently that's still a possibility in the Marvel Universe, that their Statue of Liberty is indeed going to have the Captain America shield.
Yeah.
So
then they lure the villains using J. Jonah Jameson as a great, because he's an enemy of Spider-Man, but Spider-Man has always known how to use him to his advantage.
Yep.
So he calls the Daily Bugle, a FaceTime about, it's my fault. You're a menace. I'm going to fix this. And if the villains are hearing this, this is where I'm at. And please wish me luck, because your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man could use some right now.
Spider-Man!
So, there you have
Spider-Man! You'll capture that Spider-Man.
That's right. He's a menace.
Public enemy number one.
That's right.
Give me pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, he doesn't ask for pictures. He just wants to.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Right. Yeah. So, Toby, Tom, and Andrew. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's a scene where Ned calls for Peter, and a great scene in the lab where, we're all Peter Parker.
Yeah,
we're all Peter Parker. That doesn't help either.
Yeah.
So
we're all Spider-Man too.
So the stage is set for the final battle at the Statue of Liberty, and the villains show up, and then things don't sync well because Spider-Man usually doesn't work well with others, but Tom says, you know what? I worked well in a team before. I was in the Avengers.
They're like, what's the Avengers?
And Toby says, great. What's that?
Yeah, that's...
Yes. And then Andrew says, you're in a band? You're in a band?
Right. Or the part... I don't remember how they got into the conversation about aliens.
And, those was one of the strangest... Those the waiting for the villains to show up. What was the strangest thing you ever fought?
Yeah.
And, you met some of them.
Yeah. Well, there's this alien, this black... There was one that was an alien. Oh, I fought an alien, too. I had to go off planet.
I was here on Earth and in space.
Yeah. There was something about Thanos or green... Or I think they called them the purple alien.
The purple man. The purple alien.
Yeah. Andrew Garfield makes some comment like, man, I'm late. Like, the closest I get is the Rhino.
The guy in a rhinoceros suit. Yeah. No, you're not lame. You're not lame. No, we have a Spider-Man group therapy session.
Yeah, that's the other thing that happens a lot is it's like there is quite the reassurances to Andrew Garfield that I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, gosh darn, people like it. To the point of where it was funny, because one of the lines that Toby says is, "You're amazing," which is great.
Yes. I was waiting for someone to tell him he's spectacular.
Well, right. Well, but the thing is that his movies were amazing.
Yes, they were.
Like at one point, I guess Tobey Maguire, the part where Tobey Maguire is complaining about his back. Apparently, in the filming of the second Spider-Man movie, Tobey Maguire had a back problem. Or a back injury.
They're digging deep with these Easter eggs.
And ironically, they almost replaced him with Jake Gyllenhaal. But they decided to make light of it in the movie, now they could take
Yeah,
advantage
they
of it.
did a little.
And
Andrew does a little bit of chiropractic on this. Just cracks his back for him.
But yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The moment where you see the three of them swinging together, and then they all land on the top of the Statue of Liberty, is
that'll sell some action figures.
Forget some action figures. Okay, let me know when the poster's available.
Yep. Let me see. I want to hang that poster in my room. Yep.
Yeah, or let me know when I can find that on the internet and make it my wallpaper or some shit like that.
My screen grab.
Yeah, exactly.
For my phone screen, yeah.
That moment is literally like, okay.
They all go, woohoo! And they go down there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they fight, they fight. And they coordinate their attacks. And
then we learn that Ned doesn't know how to close portals.
He can open them.
And at some point, Strange shows back up, which is hysterical because what Peter's doing is working, so Strange is impressed. The other part that's amusing is Strange is also kind of annoyed that Ned does know how to use the sling ring and apparently knows how to use it quicker and better than he did, which I thought was hysterical.
Huh.
He was like, huh? Okay.
Okay.
That incredulous look, but yet at the same time annoyed look that son of a bitch, the kid is magical.
It makes Doctor Strange so great and how he played off against Tony Stark so well in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Where he can be the straight man and he's the serious one and oh crap.
Well, the one thing we didn't talk about is at one point Electro gets a hold of the Iron Man arc welder.
Yes, the arc reactor that was powering the fabricator. When the fit hits the Shan in Happy's apartment and Green Goblin starts fighting and that's the first thing that Electro grabs. That's how he dispatches Dr. Octopus, where Electro has an arc reactor.
The Iron Man arc reactor, which is and again, I'm sorry. At some point, there's a conversation, and I can't remember if he's having it with Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland about. I always thought Spider-Man was black.
That was after he cures. Spider-Man. That's after they cure Max.
Is it? Okay.
That's after Andrew Garfield cures. Actually, it's Dr. Octopus who cures him.
Yeah.
Because Doc Ock shows up during the fight.
Yeah.
And Sandman and Electro are cured, for lack of a better term. And and Andrew goes to Max and says, I'm glad you're able to, and he finds out that you do good in the world, you help poor people. All this time I thought you were black. And Andrew says, I'm sorry.
I gotta be honest, I really thought at that moment we might get Miles Morales.
Well, I kind of, waved at the screen where, because hoping we'll see a black Spider-Man someday. And we're like, that's what I...
Well, it was kind of funny. I'm like, it's interesting because there's a part of me where it's like, I think it was too difficult for them to get away with figuring out a way to cast a live action Miles Morales without anybody knowing. I think if they could have figured out a way to do that, they would have done it, and we would have seen Miles Morales at that moment. But I don't think they could have. I
think there would have been too much like aping the Spider-Verse animated film, though. I mean, let Miles have his time in the Spider-Verse films, and then let the MCU introduce him proper. I mean, there are rumors that Tom Holland is going to take a break from acting to maybe start a family.
So, well, we'll see.
But anyway, moving right along, we get the Lizard finds the open portal, and the fight ensues. And then, where he gets cured, and then finally, Goblin shows up. But again, Doctor Strange is busy doing other things because the Goblin threw a pumpkin bomb that landed in the box that let the spell out, and it's causing fissures in space-time. So Doctor Strange is busy containing what's going on there. So that means so Andrew, Tom, and Toby have to deal with Goblin. And we get the famous scene where MJ falls off the cliff and Tom dives after her.
Except it's not Tom this time.
But then he gets knocked out. He gets knocked over by Goblin, and then Andrew steps up and saves her, and that was, again, another emotional moment for Andrew.
Well, I'll tell you this: the crowd cheered loudly at that moment.
Yes.
In my theater.
Yeah.
For that, so that was a huge pop moment, and it was good to see.
Because I watched all three of the Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire in the theaters, but it was only after the fact I saw the Andrew Garfield ones. I have less emotionally invested in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but after that scene, it's changed my outlook on Andrew Garfield's.
I really always liked him. I
didn't hate him, but I just didn't feel emotionally attached.
You know what? When I watched those movies and I watched him, I always felt like he did a solid job.
Oh, yeah.
I always felt like the problem was a lot of what they did to put around him and the story and some of the other aspects just didn't work well. And it's too bad because because in some ways I liked there are aspects of Amazing that I liked better. I liked the fact that Peter had to figure out how to make web shooters and had to do all those pieces and all that stuff.
We didn't get from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
And Andrew Garfield just seemed like far more of a nerd and a wallflower than Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker ever was.
And Tobey did always look a little too old for high school.
Well, in fairness, Andrew Garfield did a little bit too.
Yeah.
But it was with the way Andrew Garfield was portraying it, he really was kind of an outcast. He really wasn't part of the norm. He wasn't part of he fit the part of the outcast really, really well. And he played it well. And it's kind of sad because there's an aspect of Andrew Garfield's character where they always kept making a question mark about the parents. And it's too bad because... Yeah,
that aspect of his storyline didn't get the justice it deserves.
Well, the problem is in the comics, that storyline goes a different direction, which is that his parents were... I can't remember all the details, but it has to do with the Red Skull. And it has to do with the Red Skull, and that's what happened to them, was something having to do with that they were secret agents, and something happened regarding the Red Skull. And there's a whole big thing there where that's how Spider-Man has a connection to the Red Skull in the comic books. But
obviously they couldn't do that. Sony couldn't do that at the time because of
right.
the breakup of the IPs.
Right. And so there was too many issues there that wasn't going to happen. So there's that. Again, God bless William Dafoe.
Yes.
We thought he was good in the first Spider-Man movie. Nothing compared to what he did in this movie. He takes it to a whole new level.
He was sinister and crazy and almost at times sympathetic. When he's not when his original, personality takes over. But as we get to the build up to the final battle between Tom Holland and Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, and we get it of all places on top of Captain America's shield that fell off the Statue of Liberty, as the dawn is breaking here in New York, and we get another great fisticuffs fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin, almost like the Joker to his Batman.
Yeah.
And then it was a great fight scene, a great way to end the conflict, and it almost ends badly, but Andrew and Tobey step in, and.
Well, Tobey really steps in.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, to the point of where I thought maybe his character was going to be dead.
Yeah, he does get stabbed because he stops Tom from stabbing him with the glider. Mm-hmm. Instead, Green Goblin stabs Toby.
Mm-hmm.
But then Andrew throws the antidote to Tom and stabs him. Yeah. And this time it worked because the serum didn't work the first time against Goblin. Maybe that's because Goblin might have sabotaged it. Anyway, so then that happens, and then all the bad guys resolved. Okay, let's check up on Doctor Strange. Strange can't contain the fissures that are opening in space-time and all reality, and they're coming through. There's only one way to stop it. Tom realizes he has to, and part of that scene where Green Goblin says, it's all about what you want, isn't it? It's all about, I see through Norman's eyes. It's all about you getting what you want. And this time, Tom can't get what he wants. And he has to make everyone forget. And yeah, it was of course, emotional goodbyes to the Toby and Andrew. And of course, another emotional goodbye to Ned and MJ. I will find you. I'll make you remember. And
not to mention Doctor Strange as well.
And Doctor Strange, yeah, where it says, where the exchange always, during the course of the film, it says, call me sir. No, call me Stephen.
Mm.
He's on his bad terms with him. Okay, you call me sir. It's like, so.
Yeah.
And see you around, kid. And that's how it ends, and the spell's resolved. Fissures are closed. Reality is restored. And Tom Holland swings off to his solitude.
And essentially at this point it just basically, and this is the part that just, I mean, we could go scene by scene here, but the long and the short of it is they've essentially reset Spider-Man to essentially what the classic version of Spider-Man is, which is by the time this movie ends, it's Peter Parker by himself, broke,
getting his one tiny little apartment.
Right. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows who he's Spider-Man. He's in his tiny one-bedroom apartment that looks awfully like the Tobey Maguire apartment, but not exactly. And Spider-Man to a lot of people is a menace and a problem and public enemy number one. And so, and P.S., we don't know how Peter's going to make money, which by the way is interesting because it seemed like Aunt May had money, or enough money. So I'm a little confused how Peter has.
She was able to do charity work.
Yeah, I'm a little confused based on where they lived and what they were living in and whatnot.
Yeah, but there's also one point in time where in the beginning of the film in Act 1, a rewind, where Peter and MJ are talking on their phones, and he says, yeah, I'm the most famous person in the world, and I'm still broke.
Yeah, there's that, but
yeah.
I mean, but the point being is, it's not like Aunt May doesn't look like she's making a comfortable living enough. Not to mention, there's a part of me where I'm like, you mean to tell me that there was no way for Peter Parker to access any Tony Stark funds or Stark
especially not
funds
after,
at all?
Especially not after, now that Happy's forgotten who he is, he can't go to Stark Industries.
Right, but you could have probably gotten away with it in 2 minutes before anybody realized what was going on, and you might still have passwords and things to get in and grab a few things, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the suit's changed. The suit looks more like the classic Spider-Man. Yeah, he has to get
there was a time because someone threw some green paint on Spider-Man, calling him a murderer, and then Aunt May had to clean the suit, but he had to use the Iron Spider suit for a while. And there's one time in the forest with the power lines where he's wearing the black suit with the gold webs on it.
I thought that was the Night Monkey suit.
Yeah, it was probably the Night Monkey. At least a variation on it. And when part of the Iron Spider goes back to Peter after Doc Ock is cured, it alters his suit and gives him like this other gold, not quite the Iron Spider, doesn't have the tech to it, but it adds some extra oomph to it.
But in the end,
the final scene, he's made a new suit, a lot of glossy blue,
right? It's the
classic red
Spider-Man.
and blue, yeah.
It's the classic red and blue that essentially, instead of it being the crappy version that we saw all the way back at the beginning, this is a good version, and so. Yeah, I think the interesting part is, to me, Mike, is that really in reality, you've reset the character. You've reset the entire character. Not only have you reset it, you've reset it to where you're at a classic Marvel telling point. I will not be shocked if when Spider-Man 4 happens and Peter Parker works for the Daily Bugle, getting footage of Spider-Man just like he does in the comics.
Right.
I will not be shocked by that at all.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be now. Of course, now Daily Bugle is not a newspaper; it's just some InfoWars type website.
Right, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it seems like an InfoWars website, and other times they make it seem like the Daily Bugle is legit. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't. They delegitimize it because he's behind the green screen, behind this crappy little desk that makes it look all high tech and flashy for the cameras.
But by later on, it seems a lot more legit. Well,
we'll
see.
At the end of the film, where you have a final monologue in the background from J. Jonah Jameson about, why doesn't he show his face?
Yeah.
Where the set does look more legit, like a regular. Either website or a news station or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. And that'll be the other interesting question I have is, all right, so the Daily Bugle is now a thing. Is that only a Spider-Man thing? Will we see the Daily Bugle anywhere else? Because the Daily Bugle, quite frankly, is also technically the home of, God, I can't remember the name of the writer, but that's where one of the writers who is friends with Matt Murdock supposedly works at one point.
So then Spidey's swinging around, it's snowing, you see the tree at Rockefeller Center, Spider-Man swings into the camera, cut to black, credits start rolling, and we've had a great Spider-Man film. Would you say it's up there as far as your favorite?
It's up there.
Yeah.
In terms of Spider-Man films?
Yeah.
Or are we talking just MCU in general?
Or both. Yeah, where would you rank it in the MCU?
It's up there on the MCU films. I will say I thought the first hour was slow. I thought the first hour it was kind of it's like, where's this going? Where are we going? And then right basically at the point where the villains turn on him in Happy's apartment is where this gets interesting.
Yes.
And the last 60 to 90 minutes is some of the best work that Marvel's done. But that first hour, and I get that you needed to do certain things and you needed to build to it, but I do feel like
to advance the story.
Right. But I do feel like they could have done so and still given us a little bit more oomph in the early part of the movie.
Yeah.
In terms of Spider-Man movies, yeah, it's up there. It's up there. It's I don't know if it's number one.
Yeah, no, it's in the top 3 or 4. But I'd say, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I haven't watched it in a while. It might not hold up. But in my opinion, it's still one of the best superhero origin films. Might not be the best superhero film.
Spider-Man 2 is considered by many as the benchmark.
Yeah.
And it was for a while.
And it was
good. In
good.
some ways, it still is. And before we get to the post-credit stuff, I will say this. It would be nice to see a return of Andrew Garfield. Without question, I would love to see a return of Old Man Spider-Man by Tobey Maguire. at some point, somewhere, somehow, within the MCU, I think that there's a place for that kind of Spider-Man character.
Well, I mean, we got Spider-Verse, and we got this, and we're getting a Spider-Verse 2, the animated, with Miles, and Return of Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, but that's kind of a different animal.
Yeah, it is, but we've had enough multi-Spider-Mens for a while.
No.
At least in the live-action sense.
No. I don't think so. No. Especially not considering the direction they're headed with their storytelling at the moment.
Yeah. The one thing we didn't address is that because in No Way Home, Mysterio's ruse was that he came from a multiverse.
And now we have a multiverse.
And now we've confirmed that the multiverse is real.
Mm-hmm.
And Doctor Strange says we know very little about it, frighteningly little about the multiverse, which is obviously going to tie right into the multiverse of madness.
Right. Well, it's interesting to me at this point because it's like, how much of that is really the spell and how much of it is what we know has gone on with the TVA and Loki and those aspects.
Yeah, we haven't addressed, that's the only thing, the Spider-Man No Way Home has not addressed Captain America and anything, the events of what's occurred in Falcon Winter Soldier, nothing from WandaVision, which was pretty much in Westview, and nothing that came from Loki, as far as we know.
Right.
There hasn't been any binding ties yet between those two.
And let's okay, so as long as before we go there, because there are a few other things to wrap up before we get to the post-credits on Spider-Man. So essentially, with this spell that Strange does, it's essentially a nod to a storyline that was done in the 2000s called One More Day, in which Spider-Man was Mephisto, who is the devil in the Marvel Universe, that to bring Aunt May back to life, or to have her not die, that he would need to have to forget everybody and everything. That storyline is still sort of there to this day. That has never really been fully resolved. Even now, even 20-something years later, that storyline still has things that have never been resolved. And part of it was, some of it was storyline, some of it was Marvel wanted to reset Spider-Man. This was right after Spider-Man had come out and given his secret identity in Civil War, which is the other part that they kind of pull from. Not to mention the fact that there was something else going. Joe Quesada, who, God bless him, I love Joe, and he's a great writer. But Joe decided for some strange reason, it was better if Peter Parker and Mary Jane were not married anymore. And if they really kind of weren't necessarily together anymore. And they kind of made that, and he kind of made that decision editorially. And that's part of what this was essentially there was a reset of everything that took place from the Michael J. Straczynski and Civil War stuff that took place over about a 5-year period. And the sad part is, there's some great comics from that point in time. That Straczynski writes, there's some great Avengers stories from that time frame. Civil War, obviously, we've seen bits and pieces. But the real Civil War was really a good time frame to be a Spider-Man fan and to read. It was a unique, different time for Spider-Man. Everybody kind of, a lot of the other heroes knew who Spider-Man was. And it was unique and it was different in that way. Spider-Man was an Avenger. Spider-Man, for the first time in a while, wasn't looked like as public enemy number one. And then he comes out and tells everybody who he really is because of the Civil War thing. And then, of course, at some point, he realizes, I'm on the wrong side. After, of course, he's done all these things. And it goes to hell. But, again, that's the comics. This is essentially the MCU version. And I gotta be honest, the MCU version makes all the sense in the world. Makes all the sense in the world about what they're doing and how they're going to reset it and for what and for why versus what happened in the comics. The questions I have, there's things that are confusing. Like, for example, do Ned and MJ remember why? Why would it, MJ still has the cut over her forehead at the end of the movie. Does she remember why she was there? Does she remember helping Spider-Man, or is just something weird? How much, what parts do people remember and what parts do people not remember? If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What are the rules here about what people do know or what doesn't people know, and in terms of what people are aware of or not? I mean, things weren't reset, were they?
Yeah.
So
are people aware that Spider-Man fought Thanos?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the impression all of that is still existence. It's just none of them remember
how they changed their mind about the Statue of Liberty having the Iron Man shield.
You mean the Captain America shield?
The Captain America shield, the Iron Man shield. Jesus, what a matter. It's been a long day.
Right. No, but yeah, I mean, there's that, and that's always been one of the problems with One More Day has been, they literally had to come up with rules that they had to come up with about what is and isn't, how it works. And so that's going to be a problem that they're going to have to figure out.
If they readdress Spider-Man in the MCU, yes.
Well, I think they are. I mean, there's enough out there between Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige that they have already talked about this week that they are definitely doing the Spider-Man number 4. It's out there. And it's out there from the biggest two names of the people who would tell you whether or not there is one or not.
But so what if what if this Spider-Man is Miles Morales? And Spider-Man 4.
It might be at some point, but I don't think that it will be in the beginning of it. I think they're still going to do Tom Holland.
Well, they have to keep throwing money at him, but yeah.
I don't think they have. Given what the numbers were here, they're not going to have a problem throwing money at it.
No.
They made a lot of. I mean, supposedly the movie was the budget was $200 million or something like that. They made it back worldwide.
Yeah, and they had to delay it for a while, obviously, because of the events of 2020 and 2021.
Right, but they made it back in spades.
Well, yeah.
And by the way, here's the interesting part. This is assuming, and I gotta say it, once it starts to leak out more that the other two are in it, I think the numbers in terms of people going the following week, I mean, Christmas is right here. I know there are some people who are probably waiting to go with their families at the holiday. I expect the numbers to go, I expect the numbers to be big. I expect it to be ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's going to get split between Matrix and Sing 2 this week.
Yeah, but I don't think so.
Because Matrix is a beloved franchise too with the hardcore fans.
It is, but keep in mind.
But this is with the MCU, and granted, I saw it twice, so I don't think I'm going to see it a third time.
But keep in mind too, and this is what will technically hurt Matrix on the box office. Is there'll be a lot of people watching it. Quite a bit of them will be at home.
Yep.
Sing 2, yeah, I think you'll get people. I don't know. I just think that the numbers are going to continue to move on Spider-Man and in the positive direction. That there isn't going to be nearly the drop-off like there has been on other movies at times. Because it's going to start to get out that, the other two are in this movie. It's going to get out. I know a lot of people have been quiet, but it's hard to keep quiet.
I was lucky I did not catch any spoilers before I saw it in theater.
But I'm already seeing all over the internet things where it's like they're kind of keeping it, they're trying to keep it down.
but at the same time, it's like there's too much excitement about this movie, and sites have got to put stuff out, and you get the idea, and yeah, it's gonna, there's some people where it's gonna be, hey, you know what? Yeah, they are. Oh shit, I really want to see it now. But yeah, we'll be curious. We'll be curious. So I guess let's get to the post-credit stuff.
Yep, there's only two this time. We get the faces, and then before the real credits, before all the thousands of boring people who helped contribute to make this film started, we get all the stars and all the fancy animation. Our first post-credit scene is a bar somewhere south of the border, we presume. And it's Tom Hardy. And he's drinking, talking to the bartender. And he's also, Venom's talking. And a great exchange between him and the bartender. He's like, yeah, I'm hearing all these stories about this purple guy who likes stones. I'm like, who likes the stones? But the bartender said, he took my family for 5 years. He made my family disappear for 5 years. So Tom says, maybe I'll go. Or Eddie, I mean. I'm used to referring to the actors so I don't get them confused. Maybe I'll visit the Spider-Man. And then all of a sudden, he's whisked away, just like how all the villains and heroes were whisked away when Doctor Strange completes a spell. And before he pays his bill at the bar. But what happens? A tiny bit of black stuff lands on the countertop of the bar. And it moves, and then we cut to black. So leaving open a possibility of Venom in this universe.
Well, and it kind of... So there's a few things. One, Venom does die in Spider-Man 3.
In the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3.
In the Tobey Maguire. But yeah. Venom, this version of Venom, has never met Spider-Man. So He doesn't know who Spider-Man is. Or does he? And this becomes part of the question. Why did this Venom get pulled through? Which begs the question, does the symbiote travel through the multiverse, or has it traveled through the multiverse, or is it aware of the multiverse and in some way, shape, or form? Is that why it got pulled through? I don't know.
How did it escape Doctor Strange's spell? Because the plot demands it.
Well, and that's the other thing. Okay, so now there's a part of Venom here, which begs the question, all right, what's the plan with this? And how does this work? And why did it get to stay? Versus, how is that possible? The one thing, and I don't know how much you're aware, there's been a lot of changes in some of Venom's backstory. It doesn't change the fact of how we originally met Venom and how we originally got to Venom. But the interesting part is there's been a lot done about where the symbiotes come from, and that there's this planet, and that there's a god that's basically, I think it's called Null. And essentially, he's the king of the symbiotes or something like that. And again, I don't remember all of it. This is all current stuff, and I haven't kept as much up on it. But the long and short of it is, this guy is as powerful as Thanos. Maybe more. And I know at some point, whether it's Sony or Marvel, they want to get there. And they want to use it. Because there's a lot of really good material there that they can use from Venom on that.
But are they going to get there with the MCU, or are they going to try and do that with Tom Hardy's Venom?
Well, and that becomes part... I'll tell you what would be interesting. What would be interesting is, considering you're talking about a multiverse. Now, this would be something. If Venom 3 was Tom Hardy, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland versus Null the Symbiote King. And P.S., I don't think that's enough. I'll tell you that right now. I don't think that's enough to win.
Well, then,
based on the power level that supposedly is going on, that
maybe it's Avengers. Enough. Maybe he's an Avengers level baddie.
Well, and he is. That's the point.
Okay.
It seems like
maybe they might be setting it up. Who knows?
Well, and there was talk. Here's the thing: as much as there's been talk about how much more Tom Holland's doing in the MCU, one of the parts of that agreement was that Marvel and Sony were looking to work together more in terms of crossing their universes and building up that. If that's the case, there's a lot that can be going on here. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, I was kind of surprised that we didn't see, this is the only place we saw Venom. The only thing I can come up with is, quite frankly, they probably filmed both scenes while they were filming Venom. I mean, Venom 2. They filmed both scenes while they were filming Venom 2.
Does this tie in at all to the post-credit scene from Let There Be Carnage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the post-credit scene is literally, and that's the interesting part. Venom is having a conversation with Eddie about, you do not, because they're talking in general, and Venom is talking about, Eddie's talking about letting me in on more things, and I feel like there's things you're not telling me. And Venom is like, there's only so many things that you can comprehend. There are things that you just can't understand, that I have seen in places and things that I have seen that you will not be able to comprehend. And they kind of get into it. And Venom is about to show Tom Hardy one of them when the spell goes off. And then he finds himself in the MCU version.
Okay.
The interesting part to me is, based on that conversation, there's a lot that can be said from that. I mean, that Venom is aware that there's a multiverse. Venom is aware, you catch my drift. There's a lot that you can go, for all we know, that Venom could be the same Venom that Tobey Maguire fought. Possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, but possible, but we don't know. And we're not gonna know. So let's get to the multiverse, get to the multiverse trailer.
Yeah. At the very end, we had to sit through all the credits, and only a few people got up after the Venom tease scene. A few people got up, but most people were smart enough to be like, "Yep, I'm going to sit through the credits." A lot of people huddled by the exit, waiting to see it as they were ready to leave as soon as it was finally totally over. But we get a trailer pretty much for the Multiverse of Madness, which is Doctor Strange 2, where Doctor Strange, he's made a transgression with this last spell, this botched spell that's caused some stuff and the forgetting and all that. I mean, he has cast the forgetting spell, and they do address that, where he has used this forgetting spell before, but there have been, obviously, the consequences were bad. So there are ramifications to what Doctor Strange has done. He goes out in the woods where we see Wanda at the end of WandaVision alone in this cabin in the woods.
And that's the first time that anything WandaVision related gets referenced.
Yes. Where he goes to Wanda and says, "I thought you'd show up eventually." And he's like, "I'm not here to talk about Westview. I'm here because I need your help." And so we know this shit's gone bad. Something's happening that Doctor Strange needs help. And we get these strange images, and we hear a disembodied voice say, "The greatest threat to the universe is you." And
well, what's his name?
That's the evil Doctor Strange from What If. The corrupted Doctor Strange. We believe that's him.
Be. Right.
Yeah.
But Mordo is also involved in all of this, and
And, you know, he's a classic Doctor Strange bad guy. So that's part of it. The interesting part, too, is we see that for the first time we see America Chavez, which is another Marvel character. So we know America Chavez is in this movie. We know that Wanda is in this movie. There's rumors that Loki is in this movie.
Yeah.
There are rumors that Loki is in this movie, which would make all the sense in the world for obvious reasons. Especially considering what we're talking about. That this all would make a lot of sense. But yeah, let's get to it. So there's a dark looking Doctor Strange. And I thought maybe at first I was like, no, maybe I'm jumping the gun on this.
It looks a lot like the evil Doctor Strange from What If.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. And it's funny. You and I had we talked about this after What If about will these stories find their way into the live action? And apparently the answer is yes, which begs the question, who else will we be seeing that's coming through from What If? And if I had guesses, the most obvious one is we're going to see, what's her name? Captain Carter.
Maybe. I have an article from Screen Rant from 2 months ago that Doctor Strange 2 was delayed. It was originally set to go in March. Now they pushed it to May of 2022. So we're not going to get season 2 of Loki before we get Doctor Strange 2. That's what happens with that. But it's still great. Was wets our whistle enough. We're okay. We'll all be back in our seats for Doctor Strange 2. So what do you give it? What's your ratings out of 5 Yeah-Mans?
Yeah, I guess I'm giving it 5. Well,
what?
No, I guess I'll go 4 3/4, really.
Okay. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go up there. I mean, in terms of what I wanted, I got what I wanted.
Yeah, we got what we wanted, and it was done quite well. I mean, like I said earlier, we can get fan service, and we can still get good storytelling, and they proved it.
Yeah.
So I'm 4.5 out of 5 Yeah-Mans.
Like I said, I'm still not positive because of reshoots that we won't end up getting Loki involved. I think that's part of things. So we'll see. But we'll see. It'll be, they've certainly left the door open for a lot here. I don't know how you do. I mean, I guess you could do a multiverse story at this point without him, but I don't know how you do that based on what happened in Loki. I just don't know how. I think at some point he's got to show his face.
Well, do we know that Loki's going to show up in Thor: Love and Thunder?
Probably there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Probably there too because let's be honest, it's Thor. So
we've not had a Thor movie without Loki.
Right. So I can't imagine that won't be the case. So really, in reality, you need to figure out a way to get Loki to pop back in. Makes a lot of sense that you get him in a movie somewhere before that. Yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong. We can go to the other Marvel thing that dropped this past week. It's kind of funny, in any other week, this Hawkeye episode 5 would be all the talk. But because of Spider-Man No Way Home, it sort of takes a back seat.
Yeah. We can hit the bullet points of Hawkeye's episode 5.
Well, I mean, the long and the short of it is, we can just go straight to it.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest part of it is, the Kingpin's back. Which makes sense, because if you're bringing back Charlie Cox to play Daredevil, then the Kingpin is back.
Played by the same guy who was Kingpin in the Netflix series.
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
And so...
And we get a good exchange between Kate and Yelena.
Yeah.
You know, she's not there to kill her. She's there to get information, pretty much.
Right. I mean, that's one of the other highlights of that is that, although I will say the fight sequence that goes on where
between Maya and Hawkeye.
Yeah, is pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna this last episode of Hawkeye is gonna be interesting. The Kingpin coming back and being in the MCU, boy, there's so much there. I mean, that opens a lot of doors. And, you know, even in that matter regarding Spider-Man, it opens doors. I mean,
it makes sense too, because Ronan has spent 5 years killing all these bad people. Mm-hmm. Someone's got to rise to the top.
Right. Well, and again, I mean, the interesting part about the Kingpin is, you know, certainly we know he'll be involved with Daredevil. I mean, as much as he's involved with Daredevil, he was originally a Spider-Man villain. And so, given the reset of where things are on Spider-Man and the fact that Spider-Man's a menace now, and J. Jonah Jameson is probably going to be, you know, highfalutin. You know, look, there are a lot of comics in which J. Jonah Jameson put out money to create creatures and bad guys or people who eventually became bad guys that were supposed to go take out Spider-Man and capture Spider-Man. And, you know, now you get the Kingpin back. Well, the Kingpin, how do you get these types of people? The Kingpin, you know, mm-hmm. How do you get,
he funds all the criminal mischievousness.
Right. So maybe we do get the Scorpion in the next movie.
That's what Yelena calls Kate about. It's like, I found out who hired me to kill Hawkeye.
Right. But like I said, the thing about the Kingpin being around is he has ramifications beyond Hawkeye.
Yeah. That is true.
He reverberates to Spider-Man. He reverberates to Daredevil. Well, that'll be the question, is will he be allowed to reverberate to Spider-Man? He should. We know he'll be involved with Daredevil. Obviously, I have a feeling, just based on some of the things we're seeing, I'm not positive there won't be another Hawkeye series. I mean, I just don't see how there's enough of an ending with episode 6 coming up that there won't be another season. I could be very wrong about that. But based on where we're at...
Yeah, and we've only got one episode left, right?
Right, exactly.
Which is going to drop before this episode.
Right. But that's my point. There's way too much going on that I don't think they're going to be able to fix, or I shouldn't say fix, that they're going to get to all of it in one episode. I could be very wrong about that. But there's a lot of moving parts. And they certainly aren't taking the Kingpin down in one episode. If anything, I mean, I could be very wrong. Look, maybe we won't. We probably won't, but let's see. At this point, you've got Echo running around. By the end of this, Echo could be with Hawkeye, but Echo also is very, very involved with Daredevil. Okay? I will not be shocked if we see Charlie Cox at the end of this show. I won't be. If anything, it feels like you're setting up for a Defenders show that you might be able to do on Disney Plus, because you've got Echo, you've got figured out, you've got Hawkeye, you've got a new Black Widow. You can use either Hawkeye. You're going to have Daredevil. Okay, that's enough for a street-level superhero team, and they certainly would be a team that would need to fight the likes of the Kingpin, or his minions, or his big bosses. So now, and you can build to that team by building out some of these characters that show up and have their own series and whatnot. But That's what that was the blueprint they used over at Netflix. I think they can do it here again. And if anything, you've got even more characters to play with at this point. Because you've got Echo, you've got Hawkeye. I doubt Spider-Man will be involved.
It's not
who
likely.
knows? Right. Who knows? Maybe they are going to bring back Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Maybe they do bring back Jessica Jones here. I think they will. Again, with the Kingpin, you bring a lot of other aspects to. You have another decent sized big bad. He's not going anywhere. He's a different type of bad guy than your Thanoses and whatnot. But you need him. You need him in your MCU. You need this kind of villain. You need a Lex Luthor style villain. He's not exactly Lex Luthor, but he's got a lot of the same aspects in that you really can't
it's not about just throwing punches.
Right. You really can't get to him.
No.
It'll be interesting because I could have sworn that there's a storyline more recently where the Kingpin runs for mayor. Now that would be something. Especially if he was working with if J. Jonah Jameson endorsed the Kingpin for mayor. That, like I said, we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited because you've brought back a major MCU villain. And the interesting thing is he's the first of at least two other major villains that let me rephrase that. There are at least three other major MCU villains we haven't seen yet that we could get to. Now that they own Fox, we haven't seen Doctor Doom yet. We don't know what they're going to do with Magneto. We certainly don't know what they're doing with Galactus. All those are out there to use. And as it is, it looks like for the most part, we're focusing on Kang. Which is interesting because, I understand that they had to plan this before all this, but
isn't he planned? Who's planned to be is he still planned to be the villain in the Ant-Man and Wasp 3?
I believe so.
Yeah,
but it sounds like he may not be. I don't know. I can't imagine based on all this that he's going to. For all we know, there's a lot there. It could be a version of Kang. It may not be the Kang, if you understand what I mean. I don't know.
Well, the speculation will soon be over as to what, at least in the Hawkeye sense, and whether they're going to tease another series or Kate Bishop will return in whatever. I'm sure we'll.
So, I haven't looked. What's next on the? We've been very Marvel heavy tonight, but what's next on their slate of stuff?
They haven't announced the next, when the next series is going to drop, because after Hawkeye's done, next week we get the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So this lasts Marvel for a while, at least the announcement, until the Eternals comes to Disney Plus in January, and then whatever Marvel film, I think Doctor Strange 2 is next in May of next year. We might get another series in between, maybe season 2 of Loki if we're lucky. I don't know.
Well, no, I'm looking real fast just to see what we've got, what's coming. Okay, so the Multiverse of Madness is in for 2022. Supposedly Thor is this year, and we'll see about Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, they had to delay filming because the actress was injured. Yeah.
Now it's funny, what I'm looking at here is all films. Let's see if we can find Disney Plus.
They haven't announced release dates for any concurrent seasons. I know we're going to get a season 2 of What If, season 2 of Loki. We don't know if we're going to get more Hawkeye or Falcon Winter Soldier, and we know WandaVision is done.
So, okay, this is from CNET, and this is from November. It's a lot easier when they have it.
Well, the news is we don't have any news.
Hold on a second. I'm just trying to pull this up, okay. So they show films. I'm trying to find the Disney Plus stuff. I know She-Hulk is coming this year. I know Moon Knight is coming this year. I just can't remember what else. I think Loki. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Oh, okay. We'd have to look. So yeah. I mean, the only other thing, obviously, is, I don't really want to do Yellowstone tonight. I don't know about you.
No, I didn't watch it. I watched 1883, but I didn't have time yesterday because I went to visit Ray and I saw Spider-Man again, and I got back in time to see 1883.
I don't know. I taped the first one because it was on Paramount Network.
Yeah, first episode aired on Paramount Channel, but episode 1 and 2 are up on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, and of course, magically, if you want a month right now, you can have one
with discount code 1883.
Yeah. So I'm tempted to try it for a month just because I want to watch the ending of The Good Fight because I didn't get it.
Yeah, and I've been told I need to start watching season 4 of Discovery against my better judgment, but I'll give it a try. I'll give season 4 a try. But well,
I'm trying to think of so this is our last show for 2022.
2021. Until then.
I'm sorry, 2021. Yeah. So I mean, the only things that are coming up of note that I can note is, as mentioned, the Matrix movie is coming out this week. We'll have the end of Hawkeye. Cobra Kai drops
New Year's Eve.
Woo! I'm trying to think if there's The Expanse is finishing out. Book of Boba Fett is coming out.
We'll have a lot to talk about when we get back.
Right, and ironically, we come back on the 10th. Ironically, the 11th, both Superman and Lois and the new Naomi show, which is the young hero that Bendis created, that they did a show of. Both of those shows launch on the 11th of January. They'll be back to back on a day. So we'll see. But there's a lot of content in the next few weeks that's dropping everywhere.
I know. Got a lot of stuff to watch, and with, the holidays and my promotion, I hope I can find time to watch most of it.
I gotta be honest, I'm kind of glad we're not doing a show on the 3rd because that'll give me time. I'm gaming that weekend of the holiday weekend.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got to work New Year's weekend.
The New Year's weekend, yeah. And I'm like, I'm not getting a Cobra Kai probably until that week after. So.
Yeah, I'm totally binging that, but I got to work New Year's weekend, so I'll find the time. So I guess that'll do.
Yeah.
We're on Instagram and Twitter at SOTRT Podcast. We're on YouTube. Click the bell, subscribe, when to get new content. And, of course, follow us on Facebook. We'll have articles and memes and funny stuff we usually bring up here on the show. Jeff is everywhere at Dynamite Productions, Instagram, Twitter, here on Clubhouse. Ivan, who is on the naughty list for not watching Spider-Man No Way Home. He's on Twitch at Java and Ivan, spinning his records. And you can follow him on Facebook, also in the Jive and Ivan's Vibe Tribe. A little saucy over there, so not for the young'uns. Download the show on usual podcast hosting platforms, Google, Apple, Spotify, Anchor.fm/SOTRT, if you are so inclined. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Hey, that'll help us out a lot. We'd appreciate it. And email us at SOTRTpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to those who have stopped by here on Clubhouse to listen. We appreciate you. And happy holidays and Happy New Year.